you doing, everyone? Welcome back to Braw Cast. My name is Billy Kirkwood. I am your host, taking you through this podcast put on by the sexy motherfuckers at Broadbeard Oils for free each and every week. And the way this podcast works is we get to talk about not only some of our brothers and sisters from the Brawtherhood, the bearded universe, but we also get to talk to them about alternative lifestyles, where they're from, their journeys through life, and we get to talk to other weird and wonderful people from all around the world on the show. If you're tuning in for the first time, go and check out the archive. We've spoken to MMA fighters, we have spoken to musicians, actors, comedians, writers, painters, so much more. Loads of amazing, wonderful individuals. And this month, we're doing something very special for the first time ever. We're actually doing Wrestling Month for November. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be getting people on from either the UK international wrestling scene, and we're kicking this week's off with an absolute belter. But before we get to that, do me a favor, wherever you're listening to this podcast, there's a couple of things you can do. If it's your first time, hit that subscribe button, head over to YouTube. We can also check out some of the other totally free content that John at Broadbeard Oils is putting on. You can check out this podcast, the video version of it, or you can check out vlogs, how-to videos, and so much more. Absolutely free, costs you nothing. Head over and do that. And if you're listening to this in its audio form, which comes out every Monday, do me a favor, put a rating on there, put a review on there, let us know what you think of the show. It helps push us up those numbers and helps get it out to more and more people all over the place. And tell you what, why don't you check out some of the amazing products that are over at Broadbeard Oils, over at the website. They've got oils, waxes, amazing merchandise. You can get yourself hats, t-shirts, neck gaiters. I got an amazing brush for my beard, which I have subsequently lost, but I will find it, John, I promise. Loads of amazing stuff over there. Get it for the bearded motherfucker in your life, or just get it because I gotta say, the t-shirts, the vests, the hoodies, they all look amazingly cool. So head over there and check that out. Okay, this episode, we are going to be catching up with, well, formerly known in WWE or WWE NXT as Killian Dain, but many of you will know him as Big Damo, Damian Mackle. We're going to get a chance to sit down and chat with him about his career. He obviously left the WWE in the summer as Killian Dain after one hell of a run there, that included him going to the bright lights of WrestleMania, being a part of Sanity as part of War Games. Listen, go and check that out versus the Undisputed Era. It's an amazing match and so much more. I have to say, I have known Damo for a long, long time. We worked together in ICW. We'd known him even a little bit before that. It was great to catch up with him. In fact, almost too great to catch up with him, because what we did was we ended up chatting for about 40 minutes before we even started pressing record. We could have done 3 hours on this, but we've got you an hour. Him chatting about what it was like leaving WWE, what his plans were next, a little bit of insight about what it's been like working inside the internal workings of some of his time in WWE, and even life in America, which is just wild to think about that. He also talks about his exciting return to the European wrestling scene as one of the premier super heavyweights in the world. And that's what we're getting a real insight into. Not only the man who is probably one of the most surprisingly genial, terrifying people you will ever meet in your life, because when you see him in that ring, it is full, blunt force trauma. So ladies and gentlemen, let's dive in. We don't waste any time. We go straight into a chat about his leaving WWE in the summer. No messing about. There's some emotional stuff in there. There's some hard-hitting stuff in there. I think whether you're a wrestling fan or not, you're going to find this really interesting. So I can't do honor to when Simon Cassidy does his intro at ICW, and I'm sure there's plenty of other brilliant ring announcers. In fact, I'm pretty sure while we're recording this, Damo's already wrestling in England, and he's already been wrestling over for our pals OTT in Ireland, and he's going to be a part of a huge match against Andy Wilde in Insane Championship Wrestling's Fear and Loathing, which is going to be in the 21st and 20th and 21st of November. You can get your tickets for that, Insane Wrestling. That's going to be a show stealer, trust me. So ladies and gentlemen, for the first time in a long time, would you please welcome the Beast of Belfast, the Hound of Ulster, the Master of Kilhallen's Fury. Please give it up for Big Damo. Billy! I haven't heard that in a long time. That's going to be Simon's buzzing. He doesn't saying it, but I know for a fact he's buzzing for your intro.
Honestly, I love Simon's intro. Like he used to give me goosebumps when we were doing it. So I'm really excited for doing this all over again. 100%.
I think it's going to be cool. We'll have to talk about what your excitement about coming back and what have you. I'd say without talking about it, before we actually get into the podcast, how are you feeling about all this sort of next chapter? How are you feeling about it?
Honestly, so like there was, you can keep this stuff in anyway. Like
yeah,
I think honestly for me, at first, there's this trepidation because as much as you can expect, your name to come at any time when it comes to these releases, whatever else, right? I was definitely more prepared for it the year before because I just, I wasn't doing an awful lot on TV.
Yeah.
So I was actively like kind of ready and everything, for the next step. And funny, I was part of a group of guys who we're on a WhatsApp group or whatever it is, and like a lot, funny. None of us get cut, but we all kind of expected we could get cut. So, you're comparing notes about, how we go about the next steps. And, my name didn't come up and you go throughout the year and they present you with some funny ideas and, you start doing them. You're on TV every week, right? And you're like, wow, okay, so I seem to be doing okay right now. And they seem to be very happy. So I wasn't quite expecting it when it came. In fact, I was in the performance center. I've said this a couple of times. I was in the performance center. I'm training a little bit for myself with one of the catch wrestlers, Hideki Suzuki and Tim Thatcher, and then I'm helping train some of the younger lads who I've got on really well with a bunch of lads. But I kind of started realizing that like with my time, I would go in on a Wednesday, Thursday with Finley. I had amazing time.
Yeah.
And on Friday, I would try and give up then my time for some of the younger lads. So that's kind of the routine I'd got myself into. And I was really enjoying my life at the time. And then, you get the news and you're like, okay, I get it. And I'm like, I need to leave the building. But, so that first couple of days, there is that obvious trepidation, nervousness, whatever else. But then I then had an added problem with, my visa will be, they take my visa away whenever my contract expires. So right. I then have that to worry about. But thankfully, outside of WWE, my wife and I had the very good Nikki ASH, we had applied away from the company on our own backs to get our own green card. But that process can take a long time. And you can be very unlucky. Like some of our friends are still waiting and they've been at this process a lot longer than us, right? Oof. So it could have worked out that I could have had it before my release was official, the 90 days, or it could have been a long time after. And I got very lucky that it was only a few weeks after. So the only problem was I had to turn down a lot of work when people were contacting you, and I had to turn down a lot of stuff.
You're hot coming off it. Yeah.
Yes. So I missed a month, I maybe 6 weeks really of potentially getting out there, but I'm still very lucky that I've been able to organize myself. As soon as I got the news, I was straight on to people who had got in touch with me, and like Mark Dallas was one of the first who actually called me, and it's like you never explain how much something means to you until like you can really kind of sit down and think about it. And like it meant so much that first of all, he was commiserating in the only way that Mark Dallas can, and then for him to say what he says and say, listen, we want to use you, whatever else, you're like, oh, okay, fuck, brilliant. And it starts from there, and like the lads the other companies who do get in touch with you, and some familiar, some unfamiliar, and then you start realizing, okay, now it's going to happen. The green card's there. Now I can really start like moving on and start thinking about what's next. And honestly, I watched a video this morning. I woke up and one of the lads, Kings of the North, had done this video for this OTT match that we're having next week, actually, on Halloween. And I had goosebumps, man. I was like really pumped. And like, I've been getting more and more pumped. I've been working out with a friend of mine, and I've been getting ring ready for this to get going again, really, to be wrestling again. And your excitement's kind of reaching fun levels. But this this video that I watched this morning really got me going. Like I did a promo for ICW there a couple of weeks ago, and like it was the first promo I've cut since I was cut. And honestly, it was fun because like just trying to tell a very quick story. And my only goal in the promo was to try and make people want to see the match. And it's like, that was a challenge in itself because, we're in an age where, promos aren't really used that way, in WWE. They aren't used to necessarily promote one specific thing.
In the old school day, they used to be used to talk people into the seats.
100%. You try to talk people into a building. So nowadays, it's a television show. When you watch, AEW or you watch WWE, it's a television show. So a promo isn't really necessarily about a match. It could be about everything. It could be about anything. It could even be to waste time. There's a lot of reasons why they have promos. So for me, I want to try and do something that make people want to see this match, and like that was such a cool challenge for myself because I was a stoic character who never really cut promos. When I was with Drake Maverick, I was the straight man to his nonsense. So it's so interesting that like now the emphasis is going to be on me and what I say, what I do, and how I react, and like that was so exciting because I'm like, now I need to prove myself all over again, and that's from the ground up, in ring, out of the ring, backstage, being a part of the locker room, and then on camera with a promo, either in ring or as it was in my spare room in front of a green screen, and this is the thing, it's for me that's what's so exciting, and like I think that the weirdest part of all this is like, when you're in WWE, you're in that bubble. We were kind of talking about bubbles outside of before we started the recording.
Yeah.
When you're in this bubble, like, you become like a character in their play or in their theater. And like, I don't think a lot of fans necessarily understand that part of this. It's like yes, you have freedoms and stuff like that. You choose what wrestling moves you do, for example. But realistically, you have to tell their story inside that 3-minute window or 1-minute window, or when you get lucky, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever. And it's a story that they specifically want. Whereas on the independents and stuff like that, realistically, promoter might say, you over. And that's it. So what do you want from this? I've said this. I remember saying to the promoter before, what do you want from this? And he's like, I don't know. And that's the answer. So, no, don't get me wrong. Like, things have probably changed in the last 15, 20 years, whatever. But realistically, I know for a lot of the time, I'm going to go to promoters. What do you want from this? And they'll say, a good match. And that's the exciting part for me, though, is, I'm going to try and go and tell stories my way.
Yes.
And I'm going to try my very best to help build up my opponents and the people around me. And I'm very excited because I'm going to be coming up against guys with all ranges of talent, people who are probably like better than me, who just maybe didn't have the opportunity to really get out there. And I'm going to come up to people who really need that kick up the arse, to get to the next level. I've been very blessed. I got those kick up the arses at the right times in my career. Like, I met Robbie Brookside in 2011 when I really needed to kick up the arse. I met Drew Galloway in 2014 when I really needed to get over that next step. And those 2 times, and like I can name another fucking 10 at different times over the last those years, but like those 2 specific people at those 2 years really helped get me to that next step at different times. And I want to try and be that for other people. Like, I'm not expecting to be able to walk in and give everybody like the best advice, but I know that if I can help 1 or 2 people, it can really help the product here. Because you remember better than anybody, Billy, when Drew came back, everybody stepped up, and suddenly that show went from being a good show to being a potentially great show. And like, a lot of us really looked at him as a locker room leader. We really looked at him as and he didn't walk in and say, I'm the locker room leader, everything goes through me. No, he led from the front. He led from what he did in ring. He led from like looking incredible, wrestling incredible, talking incredible. And for a lot of us, like Noam, Nikki, the Coffees, there were just so many people who had determination to try and reach that next level. And having him there and being able to pick his brain and stuff like that really helped a lot of us. And don't get me wrong, like ICW brought in some brilliant people like from all over the world and from Britain as well. Like Rampage Brown, for example, is one of my favorite wrestlers on the planet.
Oh, incredible!
So I adore him. So having him available to us is just so important for guys like who are coming through the scene, because you're going to see how good he is. But you know, that for me is the role I want to try and play if I can help anybody. If I can help, taking ICW, you know, for example, if I can help ICW take another step, because I know that, you know, it's had to change a lot over COVID and everything else, and I know the roster's changed so much over the last few years because so many of us went to WWE and all across the world. So this next group of guys and girls maybe just need that little spark, you know, to try and get over that next level. And like one of the things that, you know, I said to Mark Dallas is like, one of the problems that we have is we think so regionally, especially in Scotland, Ireland, whatever else. I mean, even calling myself the Beast of Belfast is such a regional thing, but it really worked at the time for me to get, you know, to where I wanted to be about the image and everything else. So I've got massive thanks to you, Billy Kirkwood, because you're the one who come up with that.
Sorry.
You're taking credit for it, but I keep putting you over everywhere.
I do, and I really appreciate that in all the interviews. But I keep randomly getting
I'm always like,
Billy Kirkwood.
Yeah,
whenever I get tagged in a random interview, I won't lie, straight away it's like,
it's
here it comes. It's all cut up with me now.
I mean, but honestly, like, but you had the idea for Beast of Belfast. And it was a click that I needed, because I was like, yes, that's exactly what I need. Because I was, you know, at that point, I just started maybe growing my hair out.
Yeah.
I just, you know, I'd stopped shaving my body hair and stuff like that. And you called me that, and I was like, that's what I needed at the right time. And it's like, that's what I want to try and help people with. Like, you know, there's a lot of people who are incredible. I'd probably get in heat in Glasgow, for example. But how do we get them heat in London? How do we get them heat in Belgium? How do we get them heat like in America, you know, in Japan or whatever else? And that's what I'm looking forward to trying to help people with, because we need to try and make that show that's on, you know, on the network, for example, it's on the WWE network. How do we get people from Alabama to give a shit and watch it? You know what I mean? And it's there. They're already paying for the service. Why are they not watching it? You know, this is what, you know, I want to try and help a lot of the younger talent with, or even the talent who are incredible, better than me, but haven't made it to that next step. So I want to see if there's anybody I can help, you know, and that's exciting. And like with OTT, for example, like I'm going in there with Kings of the North, this incredible tag team from my city, who just for whatever reason haven't found, you know, like haven't been picked up by anybody, and I don't understand why, because they're so talented. They both look incredible. They cut this promo for this video that I saw this morning, and it was outrageous. I was like, it gave me goosebumps. And if it can give me goosebumps, and I know how this works, I imagine it's giving people, you know, exciting people all across the world. So how do we harness that? So I'm looking forward to working with them and trying to give any advice that has helped me, give it to them, you know, hope for the best. So, and even then, like, you know, I'm looking forward to the matches and stuff that's coming up, because the thing that I got into this for was, you know, the actual wrestling itself. And I'm very excited for that part, because I've just spent 5 years working for the top TV company, TV wrestling company in the world. So I can only be better than I was before I left, you know, and the people who I worked with, you know, Shawn Michaels, Fit Finlay, Triple H, all these people who, you know, you idolize as a kid, like, I can only be better because I've listened to them and I've worked with them, and I've had them, you know, specifically give me feedback. So like, I'm very excited for the next step, because I think I'm a better performer than I was. I think about this differently than I did, and I think that I think I'll be a lot better at understanding what other people are trying to do as well. So, I mean, if it's a case of somebody just wants to get over, okay, that's cool. You know, if somebody wants to tell a good story, even better. You know, and that's what we're gonna have to try and work with. So I'm so excited. Like, and it's like for me, like, you know, all the nervousness with the green card and stuff like that was it was weighing me down, because you don't have a time frame.
Yeah.
But now that's gone, and like, I'm a week away from going home and starting my first like kind of tour. It's exciting, like, you know, and I've spoken to all these companies across the world, like big ones, small ones, and everything in between. And like my goal for this next few years, well, maybe at least for the next year, is to fall in love with this again. And it's been made very easy to fall in love with the game because, like, whether it's the promos or the matches that have been announced or the people who I know I'm going to be working with, like, immediately, like, you know, the hairs in the back of my neck, and there's a lot of them, are standing up. You know, I had goosebumps this morning. You know, I was overexcited about a promo that I cut the other week. You know, little things here and there. And I'm excited. Even like arguing with promoters has been exciting. So like, that's the part that I wasn't looking forward to. And honestly, it's actually been a lot of fun.
Playing the game again. But that's the cool
honestly,
thing.
The hustle is the funniest part of this. So.
Oh God, yeah, especially when you see the hustle from the other side. But that's the cool thing. Everything's kind of evolved for you now. I mean, falling back in love with something, and I hate being one of those guys that equates something like, for me, stand-up comedy, when COVID happened, everything shut down. So if you like, consider that my release from the job that I just done for all this time. But the beauty is I got the time to fall back in love with it. I got the time to look at what I was doing and find a way to fall back in love with it. And you've done that. You've evolved. You've sat the learning tree of all these incredible. You've always been hungry. You've always been a hungry student, Damo. Since
you trying to say I'm fat, Billy? Yeah.
Well, do you know, you know, there was that time you just took a Subway sandwich straight out of my hand. I didn't have any say in it. But you've always been hungry in that way, and and I could see it. I could even see it in your face and in your body language how excited you are about this next step, and you're talking in unbelievably positive ways that would devastate the regular person. And that's why we're so excited to see you back here in Europe and talking about the talents here in ICW, which I know this isn't a wrestling podcast as such, but we're going to talk about wrestling. I'm excited because when we started doing these shows in front of people, I got to fall in love with this roster again. That'll be my son coming home. He's not a dog. He's not a dog. He's a real person.
I was going to say, my son just come home. Bark, bark, bark.
Yeah. That's how he agreed.
All right, okay, dog dad Kirkwood here.
All right, yeah, play some Switch. I'm the only dad in the world that'll say that. Get up some Switch, mate. It's going to be fine. My kids are like the opposite. It's like, you play your Switch. Oh, I don't want to. I bought a Switch. You play it.
Your Switch. That's your punishment.
That's your punishment. But we've got a hungry young roster. I'm getting to say to these guys who I'd got to call commentary with during the COVID times. And some of them had never even wrestled a match in front of crowds, which is mad. But actually saying to them, it's like, people are watching this all around the world. Like, we've got people watching us in New Zealand. We've got people watching us, you know, we've got people watching us at the E as well. Let's not muck about. Someone's watching the videotapes. Just remember that that's what you're playing. This is a big deal. And you have to keep learning and you have to keep going because, like you say, it needs to play all around the world. We've got some great guys. I'm excited about you seeing some of our young guys like the Manifesto, ADM, Dylan Thorne, Grant McIver. You'll remember Grant, incredible talent. But what they're doing now is just brilliant. And I'm excited to watch you smash them when you come back. I'm excited to watch you smash them. Right, we've got to talk. Here we are in this brand new world and what have we. It is so lovely to get to see you after all this time, particularly with the new look. We got to address the new look just quickly, just in case anyone's tuned in and they're like, "That's not Damo. It is Damo. It is Damo." Yeah, how are you feeling about the Chrome Dome? How are you feeling about the Chrome Dome? I can
tell you, I am much more aerodynamic. So
if
I was a sprinter, I'd be doing a lot better job than. And no, honestly, like, so this is something I actually pitched to do about 4 years ago.
Right.
So, listen, I've been this hairy character for so long, right?
Yes.
And I loved it. I loved creating this image. You know, you were a huge part of that, Billy, and I appreciate it.
Thank you again for putting me over. I do appreciate it.
That's okay. But there was a period where a lot of people started growing their hair and growing their beard out, and you know,
it was called the 1970s, Damo. If we could just,
but the 70s came again in 2017, 2018, and you know, I started thinking about it. I was like, okay, I need to start thinking, like, because like I don't want to just be one of 10 who looked like this, you know what I mean? So I started thinking whatever, and I pitched back then because I noticed, like, listen, the hair's starting to recede. Like, I wore it in the middle part, and it started receding along the middle part. So it was going to come, it was going to happen, so I made the decision when this happened. I was like, okay, the first thing I did was maybe like a day after I shaved it off. I did like a number 4, whatever it was. And I absolutely hated how it looked. I hated how it looked with the number 4. But it was like, I don't think I would think I was being too cowardly about going the full way.
Right.
But like a week later, I was like, right, all off, full bald, buy a bunch of fucking razors and whatever else. And honestly, the day that I did it, I was like, this is exactly what I wanted to do. And it was exactly the image that I wanted to put forward. And it's so funny because how much I hated how I looked with the number 4, to how much I loved how I looked, completely with everything off. You know what I mean? And it's going to, the look's going to evolve as I go, because there's going to be, I haven't fully decided what I want to do facial hair wise and stuff like that. So I've the rest of my life to figure this out.
The beard's looking fantastic, incidentally.
Thank you. Like, it has. I was over in Seattle there, so I wore a mask the entire time. It's a very liberal
kink.
Yeah.
The kink.
So it was kind of, it's going ski with Sideshow Bob for a while, and it's kind of just about normal. But the one of the weirdest parts is of the mask wearing. I kept shaving my beard because we were masks so much.
Yeah.
At one point I had like almost just stubble, and it was so bizarre because I had this massive, like, ridiculous beard for a while. You know what I mean? You remember when how
I remember it at its peak.
She was hefty. She was a big one, and but living in Florida, I couldn't maintain that. It was just too humid.
Oh God, yes.
So I had to keep it a little shorter, but eventually, like, with masks and stuff, I had to cut it because it was just poking out the entire time. But then, I was in Seattle this weekend. It was kind of like a mini honeymoon for myself and the wife, like 3 years later.
Oh God, yes, of course.
And so we had to wear masks everywhere, which is great. It's a good thing for the city where Florida is like masks, schmasks. And I
think it seems to be like Disney World is the only place that seems to really be enforcing anything, to be honest.
If they do, and don't get me wrong, like, we wear them pretty much everywhere we go here because it's become the habit now anyway.
Yeah.
But like, it just wearing it on the 6-hour flights and stuff like that, it just made my beard go to a really funny level. But yeah, no, I'm really excited about the image going forward because, like, I kind of want to tie in a bunch of elements that I went with before. Like, I'd spent, the funniest part, right, about the image I created when I was in NXT the first time was I spent thousands of dollars on these kilts that I got imported from Finland, only to go to SmackDown and to go, we don't like
and they got rid of them.
And so I've got a bunch that I never actually wore, and I'm like, I'm still debating, should I bring them back or should I completely,
I like the kilts, man. I thought it was if we'll talk from a marking out point of view, what have you, I love the kilts look. I love the original Damo Sanity look. In all fairness, I was a big fan of it. I will say, when you went back, I'd seen you in the singlet. I'd seen every version. I still remember the first time Damo and Trunks came out and going, bold, but let's go with it.
Bold.
But there it is. But it kind of defined you, made you stand out from everyone. And hey, I'm not going to wax lyrical. What people do within the upper echelons and the decisions they make is their business, not for really me to comment on. But I always liked that look, man. I always liked that look. And
the singlet wasn't even their idea. The singlet was like, they were just like, can you try something else? And I just remember, fuck, right. I need to get something ASAP. And like, I managed to. It was a girl in Glasgow made the singlet for me, and like, it was fine. It was just a bit. It just didn't suit me, the best way. If I'd have been able to be there and get it properly measured, it would have been perfect. You know what I mean?
Riding up in all the wrong places.
Well, it was fine. It's just, it wasn't like, I wasn't comfortable in a singlet anymore because I've been wearing trunks for years. And I couldn't get trunks made fast enough that would have been like the right way I would have wanted. You know what I mean? I only had plain black ones that I wore underneath the kilt. So I wish I had just wore the plain trunks or whatever, and then just, come what may. But it didn't work out that way, and it didn't matter anyway because it didn't matter what we wore at that point. So they'd made their decision. So the best part is one of the funniest part is like I had such a positive relationship with everybody in the booking team and the creative process. But that's just the way it is. But like honestly, like I moved into trunks by the end of the Saturday run on main roster. And I only got to wear them like once or twice or something like that. And then boom, we moved on. When I went back to NXT, it was a case where we tried to look different, like as in the guy in the bar. That's kind of what we were aiming for, was guy in the bar who you don't mess with. So that's what the jeans were about, the t-shirts and stuff like that. And I was only originally wearing that as like the attack Matt Riddle. I was just going to wear something that close to what a normal person would wear, like in a bar, whatever else. I can't wear jeans in Florida, so they weren't they hadn't been worn in probably years. So
did you actually wrestle in jeans? It sounds like such a weird question. Did you actually wrestle in jeans? Oh god, that's gotta suck.
And then I ended up buying these jeans that were made for bodybuilders, which blows my mind that bodybuilders like to wear jeans in the gym. And I bought these stretchy jeans, and that's what I wore then, and I wrestled in for the rest of my time in NXT. But it's funny, like we were only meant to do that for a couple of weeks, but it kind of took off, and everybody liked how it looked because nobody was looking like that on the show at the time.
Yeah.
And then it was funny. Then fast forward a year later, people are starting to look like that and dress like that. It just seemed to, like, I'm not a trendsetter in any way. I just think I get lucky at the right time, and I looked different for a short time. And then like whatever happened. So people started kind of looking like that, and it's like But the beauty is with my image going forward is I now get to choose exactly how I want to be presented, how I want to look. And I'm going to use elements from everything. So like, as I said to you, I don't think I'll ever wrestle in the kilts again, but I might use them for entrances and things like that. And
very cool.
Like the leather jackets and stuff like that. Like, I don't know if I ever want to worry too much about entrance costumes, but I know that like, I know what it can look like for people. Like, it's the production part of it. So
it's part of the theater. It's part of the theater of pro wrestling. So I'm
going to think about that, and I might not rush that. That's something I might let evolve as I go. But but definitely, like I've had a huge thought about what I want to wear in ring and stuff like that, and like, and it's been crazy because like one of the weirdest parts about my entire time in WWE is like I multiple different looks, and like when I look back over those 5 years, whereas when I was in the Indies, like the years before that, I literally just wore trunks and boots. I eventually wore knee pads because my knees started getting sore.
Well,
so then,
and can I say on behalf of everyone that had to watch you wrestle week after week, thank goodness, because I don't know if anyone else is a pro wrestling fan out there. Wrestlers without knee pads is not pleasant to watch. I don't know what it is.
Honestly, so I know that like some people swear by it because they don't like being, the constrictive around the knees. And I understand that, right? Me personally, I just really like being able to rock up to a venue and just wear trunks and boots. I was like, that is really easy. It made my legs look bigger, but then, you start getting knee problems and you're not able to lift as heavy, and then your legs aren't as big. So, knee pads are probably a pretty good idea. So, so I will be wearing knee pads, Billy. Be very happy to know that.
Good to know.
But, it's funny because all these little things, and like, the boots I started wearing when I was the new Killian were these military attack boots, right? Instead of basic wrestling boots. And I'm actually thinking I'm going to keep them because I actually really liked how they felt. So that's one of those little things that I will carry on, for example, you know what I mean? And like, that's the weirdest part of it. This whole process is like, my opinions 5 years ago have changed so much to my opinions now. They changed from a year ago, from 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And that's the coolest part about this process. And I'm looking forward to getting in there and restarting this whole thing again, because I know that in a year's time, I'll completely change how I want to present myself again.
Yeah.
So,
you got to be creative again. You got to be creative again in a very, very different way.
Yes.
I mean, I'm sure you would have been very creative within WWE and what have you. I know can be a collaborative process sometimes, and then sometimes it's not. But you're in control.
There's a creative team, and there's people above them and whatever else. And like, listen, like some people will tell you it's the most restrictive thing in the world. You know, for me, it wasn't overly restrictive. It was, I just had to think around things and you know, try, because as I said to you before, you're a character in somebody else's play, you know, you're, and that's the difference. You're not Damo anymore. You're Killian. And for me, like, you know, it took a while to get my head around that. And once, I think it took about 6 months really. And once I got to that 6-month part, then I could start finding where I wanted to go. And like, if you look at my NXT run, that first 6 months, like nobody really remembers any of the matches that I had, because I was really trying to find my, you know, what I wanted from this and find my level. It was from about the 5-6 month mark on, we kind of found who we wanted to present ourselves as Sanity, and how I wanted to present myself as Killian. And it's so funny that like from there on, like my match quality was better and the stuff I did was better. And you know, there's a lot of reasons for that, not just, you know, my own comfort levels, whatever else, but it's just funny that it all coincided, you know what I mean? But yeah, the coolest part of it, this next step for me, is I've got so many ideas, and it's like, okay, which ones will I use, and which ones will change and evolve and everything else. And I'm really pumped. Like, and like this next, I guarantee I'm going to probably wear what I'm going to wear my first couple of runs. Probably won't be what I wear next year, because I'll be like, no, I hate that. Because it's me who decides, and that is very cool. Like, that is one of the weirdest parts of this next step, is it's all on my shoulders. And whether I sink or swim is my fault. You know what I mean? And that's one of the coolest things about this next step. Because while all it's my fault when it's a WWE, there's still a lot of extenuating circumstances as to why something does or doesn't work. You know, now it's entirely down to me and how I'm going to market myself and how I'm going to, you know, make myself look going forward, you know, in ring, out of the ring, everything else. And that's one of the things I'm excited about, you know, as I'm bringing all my experiences with me, is helping everybody else. One thing I will say, so I've been watching a lot of shows with a friend of mine who I respect very much in this industry. And when we were watching, you know, especially like on the just outside WWE, right? For example, even on AEW and whatever else, you'll see somebody's doing a backstage segment and they're wearing like jogging bottoms and like t-shirt as if they could be in bed. And it's like, so that's how you've chosen to present yourself, because you don't think it's important, but it is important. And me personally, when I was in the Indies, yeah, I'd have worn my basketball shorts and a vest, right?
Yeah.
But was that how Big Damo should have been presented? No, it isn't. And like, it was William Regal said to me, so I was, my early run as Killian, I'm wearing jeans, and sometimes it would be the vest, the hoodie, or whatever else. You know, that's the Sanity was meant to be like, you know, the torn up jeans, whatever. But my trainers were just plain black trainers. And he was like, do you think Killian would wear plain black trainers, or would he wear shit kicker boots? And I was like, shit, yes, he'd be wearing fucking motorcycle boots or something. So like, and it's like, but until somebody fucking tells you, you'll just, when you're so close to something, sometimes you can't see it. 100%. So that changes my mind. I'm like, fuck. So I then experiment with multiple different boots, like, because then you have to find the right ones you can work in, or you can do run-ins in and stuff like that, right? But that's what I want to try and help people going forward, because, like, you know, Killian would wear, I remember I did something for What Culture, and I came out for a run-in with a pair of basketball shorts and like a Damo t-shirt, whatever. I remember looking back on, that was terrible. Like, that was Damo, the person, not Damo, the character, right? And that's what I'm going to try to get in people's heads when I come back, because what we don't understand is our presentation is so important whether it's like that interview in the middle of the ring, whether it's a promo backstage, whether it's a promo in your house, right? You're still trying to entertain people who are paying money to come and see you. And you need to be able to differentiate yourself from them in every way possible. Yes, people will try and gravitate towards you because of the, you know, who you are, or how they like your wrestling, how they like your style. But if you're rolling in your jammies, right, then you are not separating yourself from anybody. And I was a massive victim of that myself. Not a victim. I was a massive co-conspirator, I think is a better word, not victim. I was definitely at that, and that's something that, you know, I want to try and help people. It's a little tiny thing that will make a massive difference. You know what I mean?
It is important because, like, going from of all people, Jimmy Hart, right? I once heard Jimmy Hart on a show who literally said the phrase, "Dress like a punter, you might as well be a punter."
100%.
I'm probably paraphrasing, but I think it's true. I think it's true. If you are going to be in the joggy bottoms backstage, it's like, why are you in the joggy bottoms? Is it just because you can't be arsed? Is that your kind of character? Even Orange Cassidy, big hit in AEW right now.
He's great.
That's all the character right there. He's not turning. He's turning up in the building and changing straight away. Do you know what I mean? It really is. It's changing something, and we're excited to see what comes from the evolution of Damo. I think going forward, because like you say, there's all these different skills, different place. We were talking earlier before we actually came on about the evolution of people in real life, and we're getting to see a little bit about that because, well, even John McClane in the Die Hard movies evolved. John Wick evolves. Neo evolves. Why wouldn't Big Damo? And I'm putting you in that. That's the Mount Rushmore of action icons.
Wow. I'm in there with 2 Keanu Reeves characters. Jesus, that's tough.
Mate.
That is tough, mate.
I could have put Ted Theodore Logan in there, but I decided not to.
Listen, have you heard the theory that John Wick and the Matrix is actually the same universe?
Yes, and wouldn't that be mind-blowing? Wouldn't that just be, I mean, I'll level with you. I do love this brilliant story I heard, because apparently they shot the movies like that, like John Wick 4, and like he went from Matrix to John Wick.
Is this Pan's Labyrinth?
This is Pan's Labyrinth.
Is this a Pan's Labyrinth?
It's a new.
They filmed it. How are you doing that? Like,
this is from I do DDP yoga. If anyone's interested, I do DDP yoga. Because apparently there's a couple of bits in my body that are way bendier than I realized. But apparently they literally went, is there any chance we can change his look? And they went, no, he's doing John Wick after this, but it doesn't look like Neo. And basically Warner Brothers went, it's long hair and a beard. Shut up. Right. So John Wick's like a huge franchise for us now. But you know something, let's talk about some of the things certainly coming out of WWE. I know we're gonna get back to wrestling. Of course we are. We've had the opportunity to sit down and talk about your origins in wrestling and going from the school and getting all across the pond. But I would love to catch up with you about some of your passions, certainly. Although I've got one last question about Sanity, if I may.
Yeah. By all means.
One of my favorite things was watching Sanity in NXT when Nikki came on board, and I love the sub storyline that Damo was Nikki's best friend in some way, because I couldn't help but notice every now and then she would randomly just give. You'd be there hulking away. She'd be mad as a box of hammers. And then out of nowhere would randomly give Damo the biggest hug, like the biggest bear hug you'd ever seen give Killian. And I remember watching it a couple of times going, is she trying to break him? Is she trying to break him? Working with your spouse is one. Oh God, working with your wife. Oh, that's just nice to say. But how was that? Like, did she ever manage to break you?
So I'll tell you the truth. I've only been broken once in WWE the entire time, and that was by Drake Maverick right at the end. They did a video with us about football, right? About Euro 2020, which was in 2021. Yeah, and it's funny because they had to bin the video because they fired me. But he managed to break me because he started rhyming off these random footballers from my childhood in the 90s, and that was the first time I was broken, right? So in ring with Nikki was hilarious. So we used to hate working together because we have different opinions on wrestling. So we hated it. We tried not to. We worked together once, I think. We worked together a lot when she was getting into the business 2008 or something. Yeah. And we didn't work together for about 7 years or whatever, right?
I don't think we did ever cross paths and
no, not in ICW or anything.
No,
like that,
I ever remember. No.
But once remember. on a tiny show in Ayrshire, we did like a mixed tag, me and Nikki Storm, as she was at the time, against Grado and Viper, and which is honestly fun match. Whatever else, the one time we did work together, and it was really funny. And like, you know, that was the only time we worked together in years before that, right? But then we get put into the group. I replaced Sawyer Fulton in Sanity. He had a terrible injury. He tore his pectoral muscle right off the bone, I believe.
Yeah, I think so.
And he was out for a long time. So Sanity had just started, and they were like, Damo. So, you know, it was a blessing and a curse, because I really liked Sawyer, really hated, you know, replacing him. But, you know, it was my chance to live out my dreams in WWE. So it's one of those double-edged swords where you feel like a dick, but you're also like, yes.
And Sawyer's doing all right now. He's doing well
great
in Impact just now.
Listen, like, he adores wrestling, and he got recruited as an amateur wrestler. He was actually a really successful amateur wrestler.
Wow, really?
And he got recruited by Briscoe, Gerald Briscoe. And at one of he got recruited because he had dyed his beard blonde like Hogan. Started doing all the Hogan stuff after winning a fight. You know, and I respected it. Like, and listen, it was so funny. Like, I found out later that he actually wrestled. You know, Tucker Knight was one of the other guys who was.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, a great amateur background.
They actually fought each other and stuff in college, which I think is really cool. Like, you know, when you find out like there's like 500 colleges, so the fact that two of them fought each other is actually really, really impressive.
It's crazy.
And anyway, you know, so I replaced Jake. He's a lovely fella, and he's doing really well now, which is great. And like, you know, I'm working with Nikki, and it's so funny. Like, I originally, you know, I remember not arguing, but like having conversations with the staff, you know, like, how's Damo meant to be in this? And they're like, oh, you need to be crazy and whatever else. And I just wasn't. I didn't think that was the right thing to do. And I eventually, you know, I actually took Hunter aside and said, right, how do you want Damo to be? And he says, well, I don't want you to be crazy. I want you to be stoic, because all the rest of them are going to be crazy, and you need to be the big hulking guy. And I found that a lot easier than going and kicking turnbuckles and stuff like that, because that didn't feel natural. I didn't want to be a like for like replacement to Sawyer. Yeah. Because, you know, I thought he did a great job. I thought he looked great in the role. And I didn't want to be a like for like, because I wasn't. You know, I'm not him at all. You know, he was something entirely different. So being told, okay, you're the stoic one, and like the beauty was then all the producers, everybody backstage got sent an email saying, this is how we want Killian presented. That helped a lot, because, you know, you get a lot of different information from different people at every show you go to.
Excuse me 1 second. Hello.
I was not ready for you to be dressed like Super Mario.
It's Mario. It's Mario.
Not had my snack.
Well, I will come through and get you a snack. Go and get ready for your swimming.
Good night.
Where did you get the info from?
Listen,
that was him listening to your advice.
You get bombed by Mario. You know what I mean?
That was him listening to your advice. Dress like a punter. You might as well be a punter. That was an entrance that everyone will remember.
That was incredible. That was incredible. Like, how do we top that, Billy? Like, this is just terrible talk.
I don't know if we can, but the one thing you said, Nikki and Never Mind, I always wondered, because you didn't break in that night, and I always remember going like, oh, that must be difficult if you didn't know that was coming. Because
one of the best ones, what she did actually like do something like that. It was one of the first ones, and and there's a gif of this which is even better. She tries to do something to me, and I go for her, right? As if, you know, I'm going to go for like smash her, right? And Eric or Axel grabbed me at the same time. And if we'd have planned it, right, it would have been meticulously done perfectly, right? None of it's planned. Her coming to grab me, she bites my foot or something stupid, right? She does all this, right? None of this is planned, and me then reacting to her like as if I'm going to pick her up or whatever. And then one of the boys hold me back, all at the same. It was just, and I saw a gif of it recently. I was like, wow. Like, if we'd have planned that, we'd have completely messed that up and it would have looked terrible, right? But it was this tiny moment that nobody, that goes over everybody's heads but me. But I just remember thinking, that was amazing, because it told the story of all the characters at the same time. Because her and Axel committed so much to the role. They brought all that energy and all that excitement to the role, that EY could just be this, you know, like this babbling psychopath, and I got to be this stoic guy behind him. And like, the dynamic, like, it was incredibly natural, because they put so much effort in. Like Axel and Nikki, they lost themselves in the character, and it allowed for the rest of us to be imposing, I guess, you know what I mean, and try and sell that part of it, and it was to be the legitimacy, maybe, I don't know, but like, honestly, it was such a fun experience. And Nikki, like, there was some of the stuff she would do. We would laugh about it after. But I'd be like, oh, you crazy. And like because she got so lost in the role, like it was so interesting to watch because she had been this larger than life character on the indies before. Like Nikki Storm was an asshole, right? And now
The
she
white
had to go
chocolate cheesecake of
the
sports
white
entertainment.
chocolate.
I was gutted.
Oh,
Gutted that it never made. I think she got to say it on like a backstage thing at NXT or like YouTube once, and I never saw it again. Heartbroken.
honestly,
Maybe an
like
access thing or something, but gutted.
one of the funniest things is, you hire somebody who can do this one thing, but you want them to do something completely different because we have a role that needs this done.
Yeah.
And she was able to do that role, and she was able to do the Saturday Nikki, and now she's able to do the superhero. And it's, for me, like, it's a testament to how talented she is. And like what people don't understand about WWE is I keep saying it, we're characters in their play, and they write characters not necessarily for us. They write a character who they want to put on television. And Nikki's had a variety of different ones already, and not one has came close to Nikki Storm, the character that she was incredibly good at before this.
I think it's a testament, and I can tell how proud you are of her as well, being that
absolutely
having that adaptability coming in. And like you say, it's like, where's the box? We're going to give you this box. You need to operate with inside it, but we want you to be creative. And that's a great lesson to anyone in any industry, probably, that, try and bring the most you can to it. I'm not going
to put over one final time, right?
Go on then.
And this is for all other wrestlers in the industry who think when they've got onto shows, okay, that's me, I'm ready to go. Nikki still goes to training at least once or twice a week. So she's in ring training once or twice a week. So I need you to think, if you're on the independents, if you're really struggling to find that next level, this is a girl who was just WWE Women's Champion a couple of months ago, and she's still going to training, whether it's with me or with other people, every week. And like, if you can think like that, that's somebody who's still wanting to improve and still try and tweak and twist and change things because she knows that it's not perfect. And it might never be perfect, but if you strive for perfection, what's the worst you can get? You know what I mean? If you literally think you're done, you think you're ready, you think you're finished, then I'm sorry, that's why you're not getting to the next level.
Well, there is haunting words for many, but listen, take them on board. I think it's pretty safe to say. Right, we have to talk about a couple of things. Certainly your other passion project. We're excited to hear that you're going to be coming back to the European circuit and what have you. That's going to be great. But the international circuit, we've got to talk a little bit about that. Damo, we got to share a car for a good couple of tours with ICW. So I know you've always wanted to make it to Japan. I know the world's not maybe quite open yet, but we're getting there. What is do you have any aspirations to work with any of the other big companies, particularly in Japan? I know it's always been somewhere that you've relished the opportunity if it would come about. Is that still something we'd like to have?
That is something I regret. The only regret I have in my career is that I was meant to go to New Japan right before I signed for WWE, or it was at least being talked about a lot.
Yes.
And
Nakamura.
I regret not going. That's my only regret. I hate being people who say, "Oh, change this, change that," and we all have it, generally, I try not to have any, but that is the one thing I wish I'd have done. Is that I was able to maybe come in a touch later and do that. But listen, everything worked out the way it worked out, and I had the time of my life. I don't know how my life would have changed had I have done it. So I don't want it to change, but going forward, that's absolutely an aspiration of mine. That I do want to get out there and listen, we just had the G1 climax. If it was something like that, that would be incredible. Even if it was just a one-off, even if it was just one opportunity, then I want to have it, and that is something that I am looking forward to going at some point. When the world fully opens up again, let's hope that's an opportunity for me. Have I spoke to people? Yes, I've spoke to people, and we hope that something like that can happen. But on the other side of things, as you're talking about everywhere else in the world, there's this incredible open door. The forbidden door is open all across the United States right now, which is incredible. And the opportunity to work some of my heroes, some of the guys who I love in the industry, people who I respect in the industry is ready, and it's going to happen at some point. So I'm very excited. I don't think in the next couple of months I will be. I'm going to do my very best to get all across the world over the next year. and then maybe after them we'll really see what's next going forward long term. But for this next year especially, I'm going to be in Europe an awful lot, and that is my number one goal out of this, was, as I said earlier, about fall in love with this thing again, and give back where I can. And that's I'm going to mean what I say, and I'm going to do my very best to get all across the world. That is my number one going forward. As much as traveling pains me as a large man, I want to be traveling an awful lot. And listen, I've spoke to an awful lot of people in all manners of sizes and shapes of companies, and I'm very excited for the future all across the board. But step one was get home. I hadn't been home in 2 years, so I need to see my family. I need to see my friends, my godchildren.
Oh my goodness!
I need to do all that first, and then the next step is to prove myself all over again. And listen, I'm very excited about it. So, but when you talk about like who there are to wrestle in the world, there's so many people who I want to wrestle. I've been blessed in my career so far that I've wrestled when I was on SmackDown, or whether I was in NXT, even when I was at WrestleMania and stuff like that. I shared the ring with a hell of a lot of incredible people. I got to wrestle Daniel Bryan, for example, is somebody who I've adored since like 2000, maybe 2001, 2002, when I first saw him in ROH. So it's like, and funny, I actually rewatched a lot of early ROH with a friend of mine. One of the best parts about these months that I've had out is I've had a lot of time to rewatch and enjoy wrestling again. And I was literally rewatching like kind of the best of Nigel McGuinness and Daniel Bryan Danielson.
Oh, it's an incredible series. Absolutely incredible.
Two of my favorite wrestlers of all time anyway. And I got to spend a lot of time with Nigel, and I got to wrestle Daniel, and it was very cool. And like, I'd love to wrestle him properly, singles match, blah, blah, blah. That would be outrageous. That would be next level for me, because he's always been somebody. And then backstage, by the way, like Daniel is incredible. So as a guy, as a guy in the locker room, he leads from the front. What he does in the ring, he doesn't like demand everybody come and listen to him. But if you ask him a question, he would be the first to answer. And I used to love sharing a locker room with him. He was so much fun, and so knowledgeable as well. So, and he'd been through every system you can think of. His experience is just outrageous. So for AEW having the likes of him available to them, my God, those boys are only going to get better. Those girls are only going to get better. Like having him and Punk and everybody else. So
it's an exciting time to be a wrestling fan, whether you're in the industry or outside the industry, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We have to touch on just a couple of things very quickly. Certainly getting home, that's going to be an emotional time for you. As being one of our guys in exile, it's going to be nice to get home and catch up with the family, first of all. Has it really been, obviously we're living in this world right now. You and I are talking and we're on other sides of the planet almost. How is it being communicated? Are you excited? You got to be excited to get home and see the family.
Honestly, like, so I moved away from Ireland at 18 years old, right?
Right.
And I don't think I went longer than 3 or 4 months without getting home again to see them. Because like, my family have been so incredibly supportive throughout my entire journey. Like at first they were like, "Are you sure that's a good idea?" And now to the point where like a few years later they were like, "This is amazing. Keep going. You've got this." And it's like, so I've had every level of support possible from they're incredible people, and I've got such massive respect for them as people, let alone my family members. So, like my sister, like the stuff she has done, I'm not going to put her over too much, but like, she got her PhD last year, or a couple of years ago, and she's very important to LGBTQ rights in Northern Ireland and stuff like that. So like, I'm really proud of her, like as a person, and then as a family member as well, like and with her own journey and stuff like that as a human being, and my family, like the stuff my family went through, like pales in comparison to what anybody could fake right for me. You know what I mean? So. So I'm just so excited to see them again, because it's been 2 years since I saw them in person.
That's crazy.
And even with COVID, there's still going to be my parents are going to be nervous, about.
Yeah, totally.
I'm going to be wrestling around the country and stuff like that. So I'm going to have to be incredibly smart about what I'm doing. I'm going to have to be testing and stuff like that to make sure that, that they're as safe as possible, because, they're, they're on that age that, is slightly out of precaution. So, I'll be taking a lot of extra measures to make sure that they're safe as well, and these are the things that, like, 2 years ago I didn't have to worry about, I didn't have to think about, like if I came back with a cold, it wasn't the end of the world, but I come back with I'm just at the tail end of a cold right now. I don't have COVID, thankfully. But I'm just at the tail end of a cold right now. So, I have to make sure that that's gone before I even see them again. You know what I mean? So, that's, the things that you have to think about. But yes, over the moon to see them again, talk to them, and spend time with them, because, this has been the weirdest time of my life to go 2 years. I could barely go 3 or 4 months without seeing them, so
that's crazy.
And like, no matter where I lived, if I lived, 2 countries away or whatever else, I always made sure, to get home. When I lived in America, I'd be home, even then, every 4 months or something, you know what I mean? So like, you have to make that kind of time. Or I would try and get them here, and that's the thing. I couldn't even bring them here, because it was too dangerous. So that the next step, is get home as much as possible, and help where I can, and try and help them for getting through COVID as well, because it's still a big deal back home,
yes,
and to try and make sure that they're as safe as possible. So yeah, no, honestly, like, and then even to hang out with my sister again, it's gonna be really good. Hang out with my best friend, hang out with his kids, like, oh, there's just so many people I have to see as well, like, and even people who I met through the industry who I'm very excited to see again. Like, it's like there's just so many people who, like, I won't get to see everybody the first time, but the thing is, I'm going to be back every 4 to 6 weeks.
Yeah. Well, there's going to be plenty of chance. There's going to be plenty of chance.
Absolutely.
But make sure to give mom and dad Damo my love, as always.
So people don't know this, but my mom is the biggest Billy Kirkwood fan, right? She saw you live in Glasgow, I think it was, and she adored your act so much. So she keeps up to date with everything you do. So,
does she?
So, you're very good at what you do anyway, right?
Yes.
But the fact that my parents loved you so much, but my mom especially follows everything you do. So
I could do with 100 like her. I could do with 100 like her. Let's put it that way. Damo, there's so much. We're going to get a chance to catch up in a couple of weeks anyway, but I don't want to take too much more of your time up. But I just wanted to do this just quickly. You're coming back on the scene. You're being reborn, if we like, in a lot of ways, re-emerging. What would be your message for your fans and this brand new Damo that we're going to see? What would be, in a nutshell, your message to them?
My message to everybody is thanks so much for everybody who supported me throughout this entire process. Whether it was on the independents before, whether it was even, the bigger ones like ICW and Rev Pro, and even when I went to What Culture, I picked up a lot of fans there. For everybody who stuck with me through that whole process, and the support I've had since June 25th, when I got released, has been outrageous. Like, I was really emotional with the response that everybody gave me and the support everybody gave me. You just don't expect it at all. Like Nikki said, like, the weirdest part was what set me off was the positivity. I was just reading, like, whether it was text from Shawn Michaels or whether it was, from fans texting me, it was like, you're just blown away by I was inundated by support, which I was surprised at, you know what I mean? So I can't wait to repay that. I can't wait to show how much I adore this industry and show how much I adore what I do in that ring. I can't wait to prove myself all over again and show that you had every reason to support me in the first place, because listen, everything I've done because I thought it was the right idea or the right thing at the time. A lot of the time it wasn't. I had to learn from it. I've spent my entire career learning, and I think at this point, I'm at the point now where everything I can do is at the best it's going to be so far. I'm healthy, I'm fit, I'm so ready to go. I'm rare at this point. I'm actually raring to go. It's been 4 months or something since I wrestled, maybe 5 months since I wrestled on television. So you can imagine, like, I've been in ring, 2 or 3 times a week, every week. So I'm pretty much raring to go. I've been working out with people who I respect, and I feel like I'm ready to really do this process, show you what what I'm ready to do, show you what I want to do, tell my story the way I want to tell it. And I'm so excited to help this next group behind me. But more importantly, I'm so excited to show you all that I'm the guy you need to see. I'm the guy you need to watch wrestle. I'm the guy who needs to do promos for you and get you in that building. I'm pumped to get you guys into buildings. And that's the part that I'm most excited about, because there is a fire in my belly. There's a chip on my shoulders, a monkey in my back, whatever you want to say, every idiom, every terrible cliche. I mean it. I feel it, because I'm ready to go. I'm raring to go. And I cannot wait to get started.
Brilliant. Well, listen, everyone, give it up for the amazing Damo. Big Damo is going to be back. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to wrap this up and I'm going to hand it over to Billy in the future, who is going to jump in here and wrap up this episode.
Awesome. I told you it was going to be a great episode, and trust me, we could have kept going. We talked about all manner of things before we even got round to recording. And again, thanks to Damo and his good lady Nikki ACH for lending him to us for a couple of hours. It was amazing talking to Damo, taking the time out of his schedule. We really, really appreciate that. And make sure to follow everything the big man's doing. I know he's still doing some stuff on Twitch, but he's obviously very, very busy with that wrestling schedule just now. If you get a chance, go and check him out. He is one of the best heavyweights in the world today, and by the signs of it, he has plans to get even better if that's even possible. Head over, check out everything he's doing, and don't forget, wherever you're listening to the podcast or whether you're watching it, hit that subscribe button and leave us a review. It really does make a big difference. We're trying to get the podcast out to as many people. We've been going for well over a year and a bit, and we've got big plans for 2022. Talking about big plans, actually, hey, listen, come and see us do Braw Cast live. That is going to be in February next year. You can grab your tickets. It's the first time we're ever going to do it. It's at the Dry Gate in Glasgow. Tickets are available now. It's going to be a little bit of comedy, a little bit of chat. We're going to have Calvin Gowan on, ICW Pro Wrestling Superstar, the hardcore icon of the planet, Jack Jester. He's going to be on it. We're also going to have our pal Bruce from Teapot for One. It's going to be a good laugh. It's kind of in the place of what would have been the Broad Beard and Mustache Championships for this year. What a placeholder. Think of it as a placeholder. Come along, have a beer, have a laugh. We're going to have a good time. And if any of you saw the Tash Tickler launch party they had, think of it kind of like that, but a little more organization. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm going to get to do some stand-up and stuff to kind of liven up the crowd, and it's going to be great. So get your tickets for that just now. They are selling really fast. They're selling really well, so let's get that place full and have ourselves a good time in February. Right, that's all we got time for in this episode of Braw Cast. Don't forget to go and check out everything Big Damo is up to, but as well, make sure to head over to Braw Beard Oils. We're on the run up to Christmas. You don't want to miss out. That's all we got time for. We'll see you next time. Cheers! Yeah!